Welcome to Let's Talk Jets Radio.
What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush, Let's Talk Jets, with a guy I've been dying to talk to on a stream, because these guys, Jets Talk 24/7 has just been setting the tone for everybody with phenomenal shows with O'Leary, Greenbean. Ryan Delaney, how are you doing, my friend?
Dude, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a long time coming, so it's finally good to get some Jets talk out.
Yeah, it was funny because I saw you watching our intro. You're probably like, what the hell am I getting myself into?
I love it, dude. The excitement you guys have during your game streams, during your live chats and everything, it's a lot of fun. I find myself hopping in there and just sort of like watching. I don't comment a whole lot, but I'll sit there and I'll watch a lot of it.
Yeah, we're fortunate, man. Our chat is like a wild community, man. It's just, and they got us through some times where his team was terrible. Where, like, you know, you're as a content creator, man, it's like you're struggling to talk about things. Like, how many times can you say we suck, fire this guy, trade this guy, whatever else? But the first question I have for you is, how long have you been a Jet fan? What made you a Jet fan?
So I became a Jet fan because my dad was a Jet fan. So we started going to games. I want to say it was like 95 or so. I sat through like some awful seasons as a kid. I'm 32 years old. So I would have been 6 years old then, roughly. And going through that and then we had season tickets up second to last row, backs almost to the concrete, section 327. And my dad loved green growing up. I loved green growing up. So it was just kind of sort of where I fell into. But yeah, dude. Wayne Corbett. I got a signed football in the background right there. Wayne Corbett. Oh,
there you go.
My favorite football player of all time. When I was catching balls in the backyard, I was Wayne Corbett. I was doing the toe tap. I was catching a ball on third down. That's Jet football for me.
No, it's funny. I sat in the second to last row in section 305. I was up there too, way up there, man. And I loved it up there because, like, there's really nobody behind us. You could just live your own life up there. You yell, you scream, nobody bothers you. It was a whole other world up there. So what got you into being a content creator, man? Like, what got you into this whole wild world of YouTube?
So I went to school for film and I wasn't really using it. And I had this idea of creating a YouTube channel totally unrelated to football. Like, had like no intention of doing anything Jet related. And it was going to be like an idea. So I'm a big skier and snowboarder, and I wanted to travel the country interviewing people on chairlifts and get free lift tickets from all these different resorts. That was kind of my thought process. And I was like, you know what? I don't know how I sound on camera. So if you like look at my early videos, it's very cringy and not well put together. And as I got, trying to figure out how I would sound on camera, I was like, well, I do know a little bit about the Jets. Like, let me try talking about this. And it just kind of, even after a year of doing it, I kind of, I wasn't sure. I was sort of floundering on like, am I going to continue doing it? And I took a New Year's resolution between my cousin and I, where we're like, okay, we're going to make at least one video a month. I'm like, okay, let me try that. And then I almost gave it up. I was under 1,000 subscribers at that point. I'm glad I kept it going because it really is fun. And even just talking with, other content creators and the fan base, it kind of keeps me sane, especially, going through COVID the last few years. It kind of gave me an outlet to talk to people.
Yeah. So what's your like favorite moment, like doing all this with the YouTube? What's your favorite part about all of it?
Favorite part. I'm hoping it's like to come, because the draft streams have always been a blast, because that's really like the hopeful moment for Jet fans, because the seasons, like you said, being a content creator when the Jets are awful, like not even all the way through September, Sam Darnold gets mono, the season's over, like it's rough. You make a recap video and you're like, I'm going to put hours of work into this. Like no one's going to watch it. No one's searching the Jets. I would say probably the draft streams are the most fun about it, but just getting to know the other content creators and the people around the world that are, happy that they get some Jet content to listen to. Guys, we've talked about it before, Europe, Australia, all over the map, guys that don't have access to Jet content normally, they get our stuff through guys like us.
Yeah, that's the wildest thing I think for me is like, we do, like, you guys are a lot more professional, organized, and you do a lot more stats and really cool stuff, and it looks really great because we're not that smart. So, but the wild thing is, like, for a long time we relied on, say, Rich Cimini or the New York Post, and for all this kind of It was always the same old content. And the weirdest thing is that we'll do whatever we do, and you'll get emails from all over the world doing like, "Hey, man, thank you for giving me this insight because I don't get this anywhere else." And not that it's anything special, but it's like the fans have a platform now. It's like my biggest pet peeve of all of this. The reason why we started this was I hated when somebody in media said Jets fans think this. Don't tell me what I fucking think because you're not a fan. You're paid to write this shit, and you're a fan of the Dolphins or a team. You don't even like football, so don't speak for the fans. And the cool thing is now the fans, we have our own platform, we have our own voice, we could share our own things, and that's what makes it fun, man. And like to have the interactions and meet people, I talk to you, and we could all share the same stories. I'm like, hey, remember this play? Remember this game? And it's a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, you brought it up too. The media landscape. There was always a guy reading things off a cue card or having an agenda to push a certain way or like a narrative. They don't watch every game like fans do. We're so invested in this team. We know the backup guy. We know, the practice squad guy. We've seen these plays every single week. And I feel like we can talk from at least a position of passion. Maybe it's not like a full understanding. I won't pretend like I know every X and O, across the board, but I know what I feel and I'm honest about it. And I feel like that's a big thing that people are really looking for.
Yeah. And the team will leak things to the media, say, hey, we want you to kind of push this story. Like, listen, we always think of a joke. Like if it looks like a skunk and it smells like a skunk, don't tell me it's a cat. I know what it is. Like we know, we've seen enough bad football, bad players, bad coaches to know when they're bad. Like, don't lie to us. And I think that's what I think all these great content creators out there, yourself included, is holding everybody accountable now. Like, you can't sell us bullshit, dude, because we're not going to buy it. And guess what? If you do enough of it, we won't follow you anymore. We won't watch anymore. We go on to the next one. So with that being said, it's a wild time as a Jets fan because the media actually loves us. Like, we're now this rising team that's getting crazy accolades following a very encouraging draft. And I guess what is your thoughts on that, man? Just seeing all this overwhelming positivity surrounding the team.
Dude, it's honestly the best I've felt about this organization since – I guess there was a lot of hope at the end of the 2015 season, but you kind of knew that was like a false hope because it was Fitzpatrick. You knew the wheels were going to come off at some point. But like really since 2009, 2010, I thought we had a shot to go to that Super Bowl. And like that was like after that championship game. Maybe if I had to compare it to like a game like the Patriots playoff game when we put a beating on them in Foxborough, that's the last time I was this excited for a team.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Like we would generate our own excitement because we're fans. Like you like even with Gase, you're like, you know what? Maybe a miracle will happen. We'll figure this thing out, or you catch lightning in a bottle. But we knew back of our minds it wasn't going to happen. And now it's like, to me, it seems like it's starting to happen. But I guess we'll touch on this now because the schedule release comes out tomorrow, and everybody's talking about who we're going to play, And so the one rumor that came out was maybe the Jets are going to play, a night game on 9/11, all this against the Patriots. And like, there's a portion of fan base that's like, oh, we can't play the Patriots week 1. We lose that game. Like, I'm like, no, like, this is the problem. Like, now it's like, you know what? Bring on the Patriots. Like, we have the talent, we have the ability, we have the potential. Let's make a statement. Let's be more confident. Let's not always assume we're going to lose games now. Like, I think for a while we've been ingrained, like, oh, the Patriots are going to beat our ass. We're always going to lose that. I'm like, the way you start changing the culture and you change perception, you start winning these games. And we're not saying go out and beat the Chiefs or the Rams. It's the Patriots, man. Bring them on week 1. Like, I'm not scared of them. Why not? Like, why not be a little bit more encouraged? We'll talk about the personnel, but don't you feel the same way? Like, am I crazy here?
No, you're right on. I've heard the comments because it's been driving me bonkers. If there's an opportunity to have Sunday Night Football against the Patriots and you're coming to MetLife Stadium and you have this great draft, you have all these guys coming back, because not even just the draft, you have Lawson, you have Curry, you have Joyner, you have God, who am I? I'm losing some names here, but all these guys coming back from injury, Becton, that we didn't have last year. It's almost like getting bonus free agents this year. And the Patriots, I don't think they got better. They lost the number 4 overall guard to the Bucks, and they wound up, reaching for Cole Strange. And then they go and take Taquan Thornton in the second round. So like, there's no part of me that is concerned with the Patriots. I mean, yeah, I understand why fans have that sort of shell shock, but like, this is a different team. This is a different coach. This is a different regime. I want to come out. I want to punch someone in the mouth.
Yeah, bro, I'm with you. And it's like now, like, as we go through like the roster here, it's like you're going to see, we're going to, like, a lot of things you're going to say improvement, better talent, better depth. And it's like, this isn't your same old Jets. It's just not. Now, there's no guarantees, but on paper, they've overhauled the roster. So you go into the draft, we had a lot of expectations. Everybody had the people they wanted. So, I mean, I'm sure you talked about the draft a gazillion times already, but who would you say is like your favorite pick and the one that you're kind of like, wow, I'm surprised by that?
So my favorite pick, it's tough. I really like this whole draft. I really wanted to find a way to get Sauce Gardner. So I'm really happy that they did that. I think our most impactful pick that will happen this year is definitely Breece Hall. And it was a shocking pick for me because when we jumped up those two slots, I was like, oh, it's Nakobe Dean. Like, we need a linebacker. Like, this makes perfect sense. And when they pulled the trigger on him, I was like, oh, no, that's not what I thought. Like, I thought we were going to go running back at some point. I was kind of hoping for James Cook in the third. He wound up not even making it there. Yep. So to get Breece Hall in here with Michael Carter and Tevin Coleman, and you see the impact that a young running back can have, you look at what Breece Hall is 5, 6, 7 years ago. This guy's a top 15 pick, and we got him at pick 36. This guy is going to be able to set the tone for our offense where we can have a 2nd and 3, a 2nd and 4, and then you unlock the play action pass. And you really get to see what these wide receivers can do, what the tight ends can do. And Mike LaFleur, this guy was pulling rabbits out of his hat all last year. Yep. Now he's actually got weapons to play with.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. And it's like, it was like a roller coaster ride of a draft. Like you wanted, we talked about this earlier, but it's like, you want a pass rusher, you want this, and you're sweating, you're nervous, you're drinking beer. You're like, don't let this happen. And then when they kept saying, you know what, let it all play out. Let it all play out. The Jets had the ability to move up, move down, do whatever they want. You can't overreact. Like, your instinct is, oh no, but then you're like, no, there's still a couple more rounds. So it all plays out. Mm-hmm. And then you feel comfortable about it. But then the interesting thing is, if you had to describe what after two, like I'm only counting the last two drafts, to be honest with you. If you had to count the last two drafts, you had to describe what a Joe Douglas player is. How would you describe him?
It's a highly athletic, explosive player. Like, you look at Zach Wilson, highly athletic guy, can rip the ball down the field. He can get out of the pocket, escape pressure. You look at Elijah Vera Tucker, an explosive guard. Elijah Moore, we didn't think he was going to be there. That was a surprising pick for me last year. We had Denzel Mims. We brought in Corey Davis. We had Keelan Cole. I did not think we were going receiver in the second round. So to see that happen, and then you add Michael Carter in the fourth, the talent level for those 4 guys was incredible. And then you go and you follow it up this year with arguably cornerback 1, arguably wide receiver 1, arguably edge 2, 3, and then you get running back 1. So the dynamic players that you have, guys with versatility, you can have them blitz, you can have them, stop the run, you can have them catch passes out of the backfield, catch those bubble screens. Like, there's versatility on this team and there's explosiveness. And that's kind of what I look at for a Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh player.
Yeah, well said, man. And I think, and if you want to evaluate Joe Douglas and say, like, what do you like, what don't you like? I'm thinking, like, he's drafting very well, but I also like the way he handles free agency too, where it's like, we can touch on that real quick. It's just like, I like the players he brought in, but he doesn't give away these crazy contracts where you're like, man, that is going to be a cap killer in 3 years. Like, we knew in the past when we gave some contracts out, you're like, if this guy isn't any good, we're eating a ton of cap space here. And we've seen it. We saw it happen firsthand. What are your thoughts on the way Joe Douglas handled free agency and the kind of players he does and how he handles himself, like with, going after guys and giving away the money?
So he's been very open about how he wanted to approach this team and rebuilding it. He wanted to build through the draft. And, we've seen those ugly contracts. And for the first time last year, we had $32 million in dead cap from Le'Veon Bell, Sam Darnold. I think we were still paying Quincy Enunwa and like
Tremaine Johnson, probably.
Semele. Like, there was like players across the board. Actually, Tremaine Johnson had a higher cap hit last year for the Jets than all of our corners combined. Like, bonkers to kind of think that. You're talking about losing 2 players the caliber of Carl Lawson, not on your team. So when you have this year, the Jets have the lowest dead cap. I believe we have $2 million, I think is what I saw the other day. So when I'm looking at that, the cap allocation makes a lot of sense. The free agents that are coming in, they said it this year. We got guys that didn't want to be the highest paid. We got guys that wanted to come in here and be a Jet. They wanted to come here and prove something. And that's the kind of personality that you really want. You don't want Tremaine Johnson coming in here to get his retirement check. You don't want, I'll be honest, the CJ Mosley contract, I thought that was a horrible contract. I like the player, but the contract itself is just not what you really want to see. And it's different. It's frustrating for Jet fans, I think, because you're always hoping for that big name. You're hoping to get, Joe Thuney. You're hoping to get Chris Godwin or whatever the big name player is, each free agent. free agency. But watching what Douglas does and how he approaches it, one thing I always sort of said was the big contract that you give out to a free agent, how does that impact the locker room? Because when you see Jamal Adams, playing the way he's playing, and now you're giving Tremaine Johnson a bunch of money, you're giving CJ Mosley a bunch of money, Le'Veon Bell a bunch of money. Well, hey, now you got to take care of me. Douglas comes in, he's like, look, I'm not paying those guys outside the locker room that much money. You got to earn your stripes in this locker room. I really like that. I think there's a cerebral part of being a GM and the contracts and how it impacts the locker room. And I really like how Douglas has handled that.
Yeah, and I think I give him a lot of credit for hiring Saleh too, because that was an outside the box hire too. We all kind of assumed Wink Martindale or maybe Doug Peterson, and the name that really come up that much was Saleh. I thought it was a long shot. I'm like, that's never going to happen. It's not one of his guys. He goes out and hires him, and then we transform that to where we're at now, where you look at these guys, and it's like you feel like I give Woody Johnson credit, or the Johnsons credit, for changing the hierarchy, where the structure now makes sense, where the head coach reports to the general manager. Makes a lot more sense. Football guys making football decisions. There's a hierarchy there, which is good. But these guys, from a fan's perspective, looks like they're in sync, man. They're working hand in hand. They have a blueprint. They've all bought in. They're helping each other. And you saw it in the war room, man. Like, you see like the passion and pride they have, and they're like just two, I don't know how to make, they're two good parts together. Like, are you impressed about how like their working relationship has evolved?
Yeah, it's really nice to see, because for the longest time we've had this weird Rex Ryan and Idzik, they're battling each other, and then it's Maccagnan doesn't know what the hell he's doing, drafting defensive tackles left and right. Yep. And then you get Adam Gase, and he walks out of the war room because he's frustrated with the players he brought in. It's like, why are we not on the same page here? Having this kind of power structure where Douglas is the guy, he's going to get the players. He trusts and asks questions and knows the kind of players that Saleh wants, and they work together. The harmony that you're kind of seeing is going to create a really cool. I think you're seeing that trickle down to the roster. I think you're seeing the guys that are energized to come to work. They enjoy being there. I was watching an interview earlier today with I think it was Uzama, and he was just smiling ear to ear. He looked like the Cheshire Cat. Like, he feels like he wants to be a Jet, and it makes me happy as a fan, because I want players to want to play here.
Yeah, and he said like he was impressed by the work ethic of the young guys. Like, usually like the older guys, like the Carl Lawson's going to lead the room, but all the young guys, these guys are working their asses off. Like, it's like that work ethic is infectious, man. And we always talk about changing the culture, changing the tone. Oh, that's how you do it, man. Guys that love the game of football, that love the grind. They want it. The blood, sweat, and tears is part of it, and they love it. They put it in, and that changes things. So you go into how, the Jets, the draft was really productive. Free agency was productive. You look at the roster now, and it's tough because we're fans. So I'm like, all right, maybe we're just green collar glasses. We've had some beers, and we're like, the Jets are really much improved. But you start on the offensive side of the ball, and they are much improved. So the wide receiver group, I think, is always been a kind of weakness for the Jets, where we have one guy and a bunch of guys that we sign off the street and pray they could play in December. And now you add in Garrett Wilson to Elijah Moore, Corey Davis-Berrios. I mean, what are your thoughts on this wide receiver group, and what's their potential?
I love that there is cohesiveness. Like, you have Elijah Moore coming back. You have Corey Davis coming back. You saw the chemistry with Braxton Berrios. And then you bring in the tight ends. So like you don't have to force all these wide receivers out onto the field to be like the main guy. You can hope these guys are going to take that next step while also taking some of the pressure off them. Like, I'm sure we'll talk about it in a minute with the running backs and things of that nature. But having this deep of a wide receiver room really gives you the flexibility. If a guy goes down, you don't have to be panicking and pulling Tariq Black off the streets. Like, I don't want to see those types of players on the field when you have this much depth. Like Denzel Mims, we thought he was going to be our number one wide receiver, after Adam Gase's final year. And he's like wide receiver 5 or whatever on the roster. So it just goes to show just how much depth we've added. And I really like where we're headed right there.
Yeah, so the wide receiver group is much improved. And then the biggest impact for me was the tight end group, which, I mean, I'm an old fan, dude. So I've been complaining for years. I'm like, get us a friggin' tight end. And I'm like, not only do we have one, in theory we have 3. I mean, 2 legitimate ones and one that's going to work in progress. But what do you think about how Joe Douglas finally handled this? Because to me, to be completely honest with you, bro, like last year I was pissed. Like, don't give me Tyler Kroft. Don't sell me these guys when your young quarterback needs legitimate help. Like, are you surprised by the guys we got and how he upgraded the room?
I'm right there with you. I was super frustrated last year with the way they handled the tight end room. I thought there was an an off chance they might had a chance to trade for Zach Ertz. I thought that might have been the way they were going to solve it. And it didn't go that route. And it's just like, man, what are you doing? This is the safety blanket for your quarterback. You just invested the number 2 overall pick in this kid and you're not giving him the safety blanket. Like, why would you do that? And, to see how they've handled it, you're not pulling like some potentially high upside guy, and you're pulling in 2 legitimate starting tight ends, and you drafted a guy with insane upside. Chris Sims had Jeremy Ruckert as his number 1 tight end. So there's guys that think very highly of the Jets tight end room now. And now all of a sudden you have depth there. You can run 2 tight end sets. You can have guys split out wide. Like that. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if they use them any kind of like a fullback role too. Like if you want to do more ground and pound, like you can there's so much versatility now, man. And you can actually take advantage of mismatches against the opposing linebackers and safeties. So you have the wide receivers are dynamic. You have the tight ends are going to be very intriguing. And then you add, explosive running back to a running back that I already like, and Michael Carter. So what do you think about the Jets running backs?
Yeah, I love Michael Carter. He's one of the more fun backs that I think we've had in a long time. And to see them go Breece Hall, I thought they were going to add a second back in this draft, and to go that route, it shocked me, but I love it. You add a guy that could have been a top 15 pick just a few years ago, and you can wind up getting in these like 2nd and 3, 2nd and 4 type situations where now you unlock the play action, and now defenses are going to be caught off guard. Because I've always been a big proponent of how do you either take away a little bit of time from a quarterback if you're on defense, or how do you add a little bit of time if you're on offense? And the play action adds time. It gives that quarterback a quarter of a second, a half a second more to kind of diagnose what's going on and kind of freeze a linebacker or freeze that edge from crashing down on him. So to see this running game and the depth that we have and the ability to keep guys fresh. I mean, Breece Hall could be a 3-down back, but the beauty of it is he doesn't have to be. He can run 2 plays and he can stay fresher longer into the season. He can stay fresher longer into games. And then you have the ability to have Michael Carter not take the full workload, because we saw him share carries in college. You saw him get a little banged up last year. And I think he's okay kind of not having that type of workload on him. But I think these guys are going to be a real, thunder and lightning kind of backfield.
No, it's exciting, man. So now if we're building it up, we have receivers, we have tight ends, we have running backs, and then the biggest upgrade they had to do is on the offensive line, because it's all one there. And that's football. That's win the trenches, everything else, the cliche you want to use. But they go out and sign Tomlinson. You have Fant. The Becton is kind of the unknown of where he's going to play and what he's going to do. But what do you think about the offensive line? And can they be a lot more physical and dominant as opposed to last year?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how the line winds up playing out, because I do feel that is a strength of this team. It feels a little shallow compared to where it was last year. Without having Morgan Moses, I think we still probably have to add some type of tackle depth there, just to have that off chance of like, okay, Becton goes down or something happens with Fant. But I do think Becton winds up going to the right-hand side. I think Fant played so well on the left-hand side. It's hard to kind of pull him off of that, especially when you're so focused on your quarterback. Bringing in Laken Tomlinson, that was a huge key to the beginning part of this draft, because I thought there was a legit shot prior to free agency that the Jets were going to go with Ekwonu or someone like that, play him at guard for a season, and then have the insurance in case Fant decides to walk, or have the insurance in case you want to move on from Becton or he gets hurt or something along those lines. So you bring in Laken Tomlinson. He knows the system. There is no learning curve here. You have a little bit of a learning curve with the players you're playing next to, but other than that, the terminology, you know what your role in the offense is, and you've got an all-pro there. And then you have Elijah Vera Tucker going into year 2. I think a lot of Jet fans are really excited with that. I would say, I don't want to call it the weak link, because McGovern, I think he graded out as a top 10 center last year, but the center position almost feels like the position of weakness. And if that's the case, and he's a top 10 center last year, that's pretty good.
Yeah, top 10. I mean, I'm not the biggest McGovern fan, but I don't know. I think I was hoping for an upgrade there. Like there was Bozeman from the Ravens, or even draft somebody and kind of have like a protege to come up, a kind of guy you can groom to kind of take his spot. So you have the offensive line approved. You have all the pieces. So if you say, hey, Joe Douglas, you told us you're going to build around your young quarterback. Well, guess what? He did. So now you look at the young quarterback who had a rocky year, man. I'm a Zach Wilson fan, but it's fair to be critical and say, you know what? There's parts of last year I'm like, take this kid out of the game. He's in over his head. Like he's swimming. He's not good. He's throwing worm burners. Like he's bouncing passes. Like there's nothing. Like sometimes playing is a good thing. There was times last year playing was a bad thing. And then guys were getting hurt around him too. It made it even worse. He comes out and he salvages the rest of the season, which is great for everybody involved, because He reduced his turnovers. He managed the game. He did a lot without a lot. Like a lot of guys were hurt around him. But now it's like all this, I think the entire Jets season, to be honest, is contingent on him because you've upgraded a lot of things. We'll touch on the defense next, but it's like if he takes that step, this team could be very competitive. So I guess the question is, what is that step and what's a realistic expectation for him to take in year 2?
So yeah, I don't want to say there's no excuses because there's always going to be, maybe something here or there, but yeah, we got the offensive line. You've got the running backs, you got the tight ends, you got the wide receivers. So for me, I'm looking at what Joe Douglas said to Zach when they drafted him. This is not going to be on you. We're going to lift you up. You're not going to have to lift us up. And all of last year with the injuries and everything that happened, he was playing hero ball. He was forcing the ball down the field. He was trying to make plays happen. And, it sucks having to, see the interceptions and everything like that. But like you said, he started to grow. And there was little things, nothing major, but you saw him run to the line of scrimmage, catch 12 men on the field, use the hard count, get a guy to jump off sides. When's the last time a Jet quarterback did that? These are these little things that rookies don't generally do. So even though, maybe the play wasn't quite where we wanted it to be, the ability to diagnose what's going on in front of you. The one thing that kind of stuck out to me, he had that weird goofy play where he threw the ball and I think it was Ty Johnson. It hit him in the back and it wound up being an interception. It was like a week or two later, he had the same opportunity to do that. And you saw him tuck the ball. And I don't know if he took a sack or he got like a yard or two, but it was one of those kind of like aha moments. And that's what I want from a quarterback. I want him to recognize his mistakes because how many times have we had, with Gino, with Sam, with Sanchez, where it was just constant interceptions. Zach really turned down the interceptions. He started using his legs a little bit more. And I think, a successful season for me would just be seeing him comfortable reacting to plays as opposed to having to think all the time. And then, all the stats will fall into place. I mean, with a 17-game schedule, I think it's not unreasonable to think he could get like 230 yards a game. That puts you I'm pretty sure that's over 4,000 yards for the season. And that would break our franchise record for passing yards. I think that kid is this talented and I don't want to hype it too much, but it is on him this year.
No, it is. And I think he's in a really good spot. He's not going to play hero ball because they should be able to run the football a lot better, which opens up play action pass, opens up so many different things. Then you have tight ends you can take advantage of, running backs out of backfield that can catch the ball. I mean, there's so many different things he can do. He's like a kid in the candy store, man. He could just be like, all right, who's open? Here you go. Get rid of the ball, sit back and enjoy it. So that's a really cool thing. The offense should be better. But if I'm, the one thing that bothered me the most about last year was watching the defense. And I heard so many excuses, and I understand the loss of Carl Lawson was enormous. Clearly get it. That doesn't mean you stop tackling. It doesn't mean you take bad angles. It doesn't mean you have ridiculous schemes that don't make any sense. If it's 3rd and 1, don't give a 5-yard cushion because it doesn't make any sense to me. A lot of stuff was really stupid, but that's just me as a fan drinking beer. So this year, they added a ridiculous amount of talent on the defensive line. I mean, getting Carl Lawson back is like a free agent acquisition because you didn't see him last year. Dynamic pass rusher. You get your Jermaine Johnson. You have all these guys, man. It's like the physical nature and the explosive ability, that the potential of the defensive line. Moving John Franklin Myers inside now next to Quinnen Williams, who should have a monster year because especially if he wants a contract. I mean, this pass rush could be arguably the best one we've had in a while, man. It's just it has to be based on talent alone.
Yeah, last year I felt like we were going to have that defense and see that pass rush. You saw all the hype coming out about Carl Lawson last year, and then you see the Achilles happen. Vinny Curry gets knocked out. You wind up having to kick John Franklin Myers out to the outside, and it's just you lost a lot of the steam that you were kind of hoping to see in this defense. And you add Jermaine Johnson, you add Jacob Martin, Michael Clemens, all these different players. You get Curry back, you get Carl Lawson back. And even if Lawson is 85% of what he was, it's still vastly better than any Jet edge rusher we've had since John Abraham. I really love the explosiveness that he brings to the table. And it's going to make everything else better behind them too. Because if you can, that goes back to the versatility and taking time away from the opposing quarterback. If you can get to the quarterback a half a second faster, or at least make him think you're going to get there a half a second faster, let teams get worried about the pass rush. And then they have to game plan for it.
And that's the one thing that Jets always lack was a defense that can get off the field. On 3rd and don't give up these 3rd and 21s because the quarterback has 6 seconds to find a hole in your secondary. Close out games, close out the half. Get off the field in a big spot. And the pass rush lets you do that. You know what I mean? So then you have that. And I think an area that surprises me is the secondary because you like Sauce Gardner. They go out and sign Reed. And then they had young corners last year that I thought, under the circumstances, played well. Like they were thrown to the wolves, dude. You're just you're rookies. You're young, inexperienced, no pass rush, facing high flying offenses and saying, "Figure it out." When guys are coming, like you're just flying, with their hair on fire, and they all did well. So now it's like not only do they have talent, they have depth. I mean, am I crazy, or do they have like it's a much improved secondary now?
Yeah, when I was looking at this offseason, I was kind of thinking, okay, look, this secondary, they're going to grow. They're going to get better next year too. And we're going to add the pass rush. So they're going to be better because of the pass rush. If they didn't go out and get DJ Reed and they didn't draft Sauce Gardner, I don't know if I would have been overly upset. I would have just been like, okay, we're going to add some more depth pieces at some point. Getting Reed, who was a top 10 corner last year, bringing in Sauce Gardner, who's like one of the best cornerback prospects to come out of college in a long time. You don't see 6'3" corners that can man up guys, like that. So to see that, and then you bring back Joyner and you bring in Whitehead, and now you have a veteran presence in that secondary that can, I think one of the biggest losses last year was Joyner and May going down, because you lost that veteran leadership, the guy that could be the quarterback of the secondary. And now you have that. And I think you're really going to see the benefits of playing all the young guys last year, because like you said, we have the depth. You have Eccles, you have Hall coming in to help give guys a rest. Or if someone goes down, you have guys that have seen starting players. They've gone against Diggs. They've gone against, all these other receivers in the NFL, and they're tried and true. They're tested. And I think it gives Jet fans and the coaching staff a little bit more confidence going into this year.
Yeah, I love the addition of Whitehead. I'm an enormous fan. It's just you're bringing an attitude to the defense now. You're going to get that mindset. Like Carl Lawson brings that as well. Some of these guys, they're going to bring another level of tenacity that we kind of missing for a little while there. CJ Mosley tried to, but he seemed like he was trying to carry the defense by himself. And that's where we're going to go to, because if there's one spot in the defense that kind of bothers me, or not annoyed, but just kind of bothers me, is that CJ Mosley played his ass off last year, but then it's like him, Quincy Williams is next to him. You have a lot of like unproven guys in that group. I was really hoping in the draft we would have drafted somebody, or even a free agency. I know the Quan Alexander rumors are out there. They got rid of Blake Cashman, but to me, it's like the Jets are one CJ Mosley injury away from having a problem at linebacker. And that to me is kind of worrisome, where I understand it's only May 11th. We still have plenty of time to address it. But what are your thoughts on the linebackers right now?
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. I thought when we traded up for Brees, I thought that was going to be Nakobe Dean. I thought when we took Jeremy Ruckert, that might have been a linebacker, at that point in the draft. And I do feel a little uneasy about the depth there, because I really like CJ Mosley. I think he's, rock solid. I think he's going to be that leader on the defense, the quarterback of that front seven there. And if he goes down, I don't know if I trust Quincy Williams to do it. I feel like I'd almost want to get someone like a Quan Alexander, someone that's played in Robert Saleh's defense before, that can at least take over that type of role. He doesn't necessarily have to have the same impact, but can at least lead that unit. And I think we're going to see a lot of that 4-2-5 defense, just purely out of, not having the guys in the stable to do it. And it wouldn't shock me if next offseason you see a pretty heavy investment into linebacker, probably through the draft. But yeah, that's definitely the one area that I hope we kind of target someone, whether it's, middle of the summer or right around training camp cuts before the season. Hopefully someone shakes loose there, because I do think the Jets need a little bit more depth.
Yeah, I like, there's three spots to like, as like, there are going to be more moves made, obviously. So I'm looking at like backup tackle, which you mentioned, a linebacker would be great. I wouldn't mind another receiver, a veteran receiver, which might sound crazy, but I want to be selfish. Like, why not? The more the merrier. And then maybe another safety too, man. Like Joyner, I like that he came back, because you have Joyner and Whitehead, there's a lot of leadership back there. Because you have all these young corners running around. They're like, they're like, what the hell is all this stuff? You can kind of guide them. But if Joyner gets banged up, but if it had that another third safety to kind of put in the mix there and be like, another veteran, it could be whatever, but just kind of have one there. That's kind of the kind of position that I kind of hope for going before training camp.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head. I would say maybe aside from those positions, maybe I'd add a developmental center or something like that. Yes. I don't even know if there's going to be one out there, but someone that could just kind of sit behind McGovern, because those would just kind of be me nitpicking a little bit. But if you see an injury at any one of those kind of spots, then you're kind of like, I really wish we had someone else there. So I do think you're right. I think you will probably see some types of addition at tackle, safety, linebacker, center, and then wide receiver is going to be an interesting one. I think you had mentioned Keelan Cole signing with was it the Raiders?
I think so. Yeah,
that one hurt. I was secretly hoping that would be a guy we'd bring back, because it would be a lower contract, guy that, knows the offense, the second year in the system, really would have made a lot of sense. Now I'm not too sure where they would go for a veteran backup.
Yeah, that's the kind of one thing. But like I said, like overall, like you look at this offseason to this point, it's like you're encouraged. I mean, like the Jets, their front office significantly upgraded, overhauled the entire roster. Like we talked about it when we did on your channel. It's like position group by position group, we're like improved depth, improved, like improved athleticism, improved talent. Like how could you really can't complain. And you sense it with the fans, you sense it in the media, you sense it. And now there's expectations, which I think is great. I think it's warranted. And now it's like, all right, what is the expectation for the team going into the season? Like it's, we coming off a 4-win season last year, which we accepted losing. We kind of wrote the season off. This year, we're not doing that. So what do you think what's realistic? And what, if we had some good bounces, what could be like a hopeful expectation?
So my whole thing is really just, I want to see meaningful football later in the season. I don't want to be doing mock drafts in October and talking about, oh, let's see where we wind up. Like, no, I don't want any of that. I'm sick of it. I want to see some wins. So if you're in position and you see the little graphic, the Jets logo, they have the off chance of sneaking into the playoffs late in December, then I think we did our job right. And I'm not exactly sure what that looks like. I think you're probably talking about 7 wins as the floor is really where I'd like to see it. I know second hardest schedule, tough AFC, all that sort of stuff, but I think we have the talent to be able to compete with the rest of these teams. And if Zach does take a marginal step forward, I think you're well in position to get those 7 wins. And look, if the ball bounces the right way, I don't think the Patriots got better. Yeah, the Dolphins, they added more weapons, but I don't really have a whole lot of faith in Tua. So it's not crazy to think that the Jets could sneak in a second place in the AFC East. It's, I think it's possible.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so, man. And it's like at some point we should expect more and get more. That's, like you can't rebuild for 5 years. You can't. And you've got to see progression. It's great to have the talent, but talent's got to translate to actually productivity on the field. And if you get to your 7-8 wins this year, then guess what? Next year is like, we want playoffs, man. Like that's your true rebuild. That's how it's worked out. Look at the Buffalo Bills, how they worked out with Josh Allen. You see all these things we've seen with the Bengals. We've seen other teams. Like you can do it in a couple of years. I think the Jets are in that path. And I think as fans, you got to be excited. Everybody's wearing their T-shirts, their jerseys. You're going to draft parties. Week 1, everybody wants to go to games, which is phenomenal. But the team's got to produce. And the one thing I'm curious about is with that, with those kind of expectations, like I think Sauce Gardner will be okay because I think, people are saying, oh, Revis, Sauce Island and really like that. And they want Garrett Wilson to be, 1,000-yard receiver. But I think the Jets, the way Saleh handles things, will keep that quiet. But do you think they'll feel any pressure? Because they're still a young team, man.
I think there's definitely going to be pressure. I think the New York media is just really good at doing that. And I think the fans get overly excited on certain things, myself included. Like there's going to be some expectations that I think are warranted. And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle them, because I like how Robert Saleh handled the losses last year. It's not just in the wins, but in the losses too. And for me, if you can see a confident team or a team that knows what they are and knows what they want to do. Look, if we lose a game because we're young and inexperienced and we made a stupid mistake, I'm okay with that. I can live with that. I just want to see that we're coming out onto the field ready to play ball. I want to punch someone in the mouth, and I want it to be a game late into the second half. I don't want to get these blowouts that you have in, Denver or Indianapolis. Like I really don't want to see that. I want to be invested into this team through the entire season.
Yeah. No, I'm curious to see how it is too. Like Saleh, he seems like he's a pretty good pulse of his locker room. He's a really good feel for his players. I think Joe Douglas does too. I think it's encouraging because it's a firestorm here, man. The Jets win a couple games. We'll be, how Jet fans are, man. I'll be all fired up and bring on whoever. Like we get crazy. But there's a young impressionable players, man, that haven't been there before. The Jets as an organization haven't won. Like, CJ Mosley actually mentioned that today in his interview. Like, listen, there's been a lot of losing here. We got to turn the page, but it's not easy to. And once you turn it, you got to keep it sustainable, like long term. Like, don't win 2 games that you accomplish something. Win 2 games and say, you know what, we got to win 2 more, and then 2 more, and keep stacking up wins. So it's gonna be really interesting. So, first of all, I gotta thank you, man, because I definitely appreciate. Dude, I've been dying to talk to you because again, you guys do a really good job. If people don't know you, which I know is friggin' impossible at this point, how can they find you, man?
Jets Talk 24/7. I usually go live Mondays and Tuesdays. I have my reactions after, any big signing or something like that. Have you guys on, have, bunch of guests on throughout the course of the season. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy talking to the fans. The Monday call-in show is always a good one where I get to try to feel the pulse of the fan base as best I can. But yeah, Jets Talk 24/7 on YouTube.
And more importantly, when are we tailgating, man? 'Cause we got to tailgate for a game. We got to do something, man.
Yeah, dude, you and me, we better have that Sunday Night Football against the Patriots, because if that happens, that tailgate is going to be absolutely incredible.
I'm 1,000% down. Then sign me up today. I'm already in. That happens, I'm already in, man. 100%. So, Ryan, thank you very much. I definitely appreciate it. Please, I'll have his link in the description. Please subscribe. I mean, you probably already subscribed to him. Everybody knows you, dude. This is easy for you. So, thanks, Joe, man. I appreciate it.
Blush.
I'll talk to you later.
Thank you so much.